Tony Bennett sings beautifully and speaks eloquently and passionately about music, art, and a whole lot more. With your host, Elvis Costello.
I tried so hard, my dear, to show that you're my evergreen. Yet you're afraid each thing I do is just some evil scheme. A memory from your lonesome past keeps us so far apart. Why can't I free your doubtful mind and melt your cold, cold heart? Another love before my time made your heart sad and blue, and so my heart is paying now for things I didn't do. In anger, unkind words are said that makes the teardrops start. Why can't I free your doubtful mind and melt your cold, cold heart? There was a time when I believed that you belonged to me, but now I know your heart is shackled to a memory. The more I learn to care for you, the more we drift apart. Why can't I free your doubtful mind and melt your cold, cold heart?
You know, it might seem strange to preface a conversation with the finest living vocal stylist of the Great American Songbook by singing a Hank Williams tune. But then I always thought Hank was in the Great American Songbook, right there after James Van Heusen and just before Stevie Wonder in the W's. What do you take me for, a mug? I'm not going to stand out here and sing a Tony Bennett song. Oh, that's right, this is one of his songs. It was a big hit for Tony in 1951 and one of Hank Williams' first covers outside the world of country music. But come to think of this, I've made this mistake before.
Now it don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. It don't mean a thing, all you gotta do is sing. Now it makes no difference if it's sweet or hot. Just get that rhythm and everything you got. Don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing.
Tonight's guest on Spectacle is a man who, through his more than 60 years as a recording and performing artist, has received every award and accolade imaginable. They include 15 Grammys, 2 Emmys, and a painting hanging in the permanent collection of the Smithsonian American Art Museum. In 2005, he also became the recipient of the Kennedy Center Honors. And yet, perhaps more crucially, He embodies the humanity and the subtle nuance of American melody, from the heart-sending crescendi of his most requested songs to the intensity of a piano-accompanied ballad. He is a great American artist, whether he has a microphone or a paintbrush in his hand. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Tony Bennett.
Thank you.
Tony, so kind of you to join us on Spectacle. And I think you may have just been beyond the curtain there and heard exactly how well I went down in that clip of us in 1983 at the Red Parrot. I mean, I tell people to this day that I once sang with you and Count Basie, and they look at me like, he's been at the Dream Tobacco again, you know?
Where'd you get that?
Well, I was hoping, you know, we might have a little in the dressing room, but they haven't sprung to that yet. You feel as
Where'd you
close
get
to
those
these songs.
shoes?
Well, I have a pair for you.
They're very good.
It's a
They
kind of
are
a-
very good.
I think, yes, thank you. And I
I
think
like
the
that.
socks are set them off very, very nicely.
Yeah. I like that.
One of the things I wanted to ask you about is lyrics that you have sung. These songs are wonderful, great American songbook songs. The way in which love is expressed is very different than the way the specifics of erotic desire in some contemporary songs. They are the equivalent of the way the camera used to fade to black in the movies, and we just used to see some symbolic things to guess at what had happened.
That's too intellectual. I'll tell you. Yeah, really.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, if I may, I'd like to go back to the song you sang that I introduced many years ago.
Please.
You know, it was Rosemary Clooney and I were the first American Idols. That's a true story. We were on an amateur show, and Rosie won. I came in second, rightfully so, because she was a magnificent person and a great singer, natural singer. And we got very lucky. All of a sudden, we got a big break. Bob Hope, Pearl Bailey, they started us out, and they gave us a big start. Then we started getting 1 million selling record after another for about 4 or 5 times. And boy, we really hit it big. And then Mitch gave me this song, and he said, how do you like it? And it was a country song. And I said, well, I think it's a terrific song. I said, but I wouldn't know how to sing it. So he said, what are you talking about? I said, well, it's a country song, and in those days, country music stayed down in the Bible Belt, and New York was very hip. And I said, I wouldn't know how to sing it. And he said, well, if we have to tie you to a tree, you're going to sing this whether you like it or not. So he tied me to a tree. And I never regretted it because it was the first country song that sold internationally around the whole world. And I couldn't believe it. And then I got this call from Nashville, Tennessee, Hank Williams on the phone. He wrote the song. And Mr. Williams, hello, how are you? He said, Tony, he said, what's the idea of ruining my song? That's a true story.
Sinatra said of you that you were the best singer in the business.
So what does he know?
Yeah. And many of the great composers whose songs you sing obviously have been reinterpreted by their songs have been completely transformed by the different jazz artists over the last 50 years, and in some cases, I would think some of those composers would have been quite surprised to find how far John Coltrane, say, could travel with.
Well, that's a true story. I remember Ira Gershwin one time. He heard a record that Ella Fitzgerald made of his song, and he said, "I never knew I wrote that well."
But some lyricists probably did take issue with people changing words, albeit subtly. And I think you must have been very fortunate to know a number of the great composers whose songs you sing today. But I have to ask you this. Mm-hmm. Was there ever a really famous songwriter who just would not stop bugging you about a song that you really didn't like?
Well, I hate to admit this, but, you know, but I had a song plugger, and he sent me a song, and I just felt I didn't want to sing it. And he said, "You're wrong, Tony, you got to sing this song. You've got to sing it." I said, "Well, thanks for asking me to do it." I said, "But I want to pass on this one song." And of all things, it was What a Wonderful World. So that happened. I guess I woke up in the wrong way in the morning that morning, because Louis Armstrong did it and it went to #1.
I'm asked sometimes myself, being a lyricist, to quote my favorite lyrical lines, to tell people what my favorite lyrical lines are, my favorite couplet. And on a couple of occasions I've quoted Use Your Mentality, Wake Up to Reality from Cole Porter. Yeah, and people are always shocked that it is Cole Porter.
He was tops. Cole Porter was tops. There was no one that wrote like him. In our country, the 20s and 30s and 40s had George Gershwin, Duke Ellington, Cole Porter, Johnny Mercer, and so on. I mean, there were others that are just as great. Burton Lane and Yip Harburg and Harold Arlen, you know, which is my favorite, you know. The songs, I am convinced, because I sing in Asia and I sing in Europe, and I start singing a Cole Porter song or a Gershwin song, and the whole audience starts singing it with me. They are America's greatest ambassadors. We have created the greatest popular music that has ever been written and will not be topped, because it's not dated. It doesn't sound old-fashioned. It's not old.
No.
The corporations will say that's old music. It's not old music. It's great music, and it comes out of the United States.
One American composer that I know Tony holds in the highest regard actually had his songs first performed on the London stage. And he went on to achieve phenomenal success with songs such as Old Man River, Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, and All the Things You Are. He was, of course, Jerome Kern. Can I ask you if you would sing us a Jerome Kern song?
A Jerome Kern song? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before I sing the song, though, I have to tell you that I'm here. The real reason I'm here tonight is to introduce, even though a lot of people in the jazz world know him, Bill Evans was the very finest jazz piano player of our time. But there's a fellow that I feel is just the follow-up to Bill Evans, and it's the wonderful Bill Charlap right here. Someday, when I'm awfully low, when the world is cold, I will feel a glow just thinking of you, just the way you look tonight. Oh, but you're lovely, with your smile so warm, and your cheek so soft. There is nothing for me but to love you, and the way you look tonight. With each word your tenderness grows, tearing my fears apart. And that laugh that wrinkles your nose touches my foolish heart. Lovely, never, never change. Keep that breathless charm. Won't you please arrange it? 'Cause I love you just the way you look tonight. With each word your tenderness grows, tearing my fears apart. And that laugh that wrinkles your nose touches my foolish heart. Lovely, never, never change. Keep that breathless charm. Won't you please arrange it? 'Cause I love you just the way you look tonight. Da-da, 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 just the way you look tonight.
Here's the moment where I have my confession, like passing up the wonderful world. I was a boy when I saw you first. My mother, who is everybody always says your biggest fan, but hugest fan, took me to the Hammersmith Odeon, I think it was.
Oh, yeah.
And I sat up in the balcony watching you sing. And my father was a dance band singer, so I always root for the singer.
Wow.
And I have to say that during the concert, I started to get very cross, because there was a drummer on the stage who just kept soloing. And at 10 years old, I had no idea why he kept doing that. I just kept thinking, that guy's just a big show-off. And it turned out to be Buddy Rich. And I had no concept of his reputation.
He was the best drummer. He was a great, great, great drummer.
Would you say, I mean, you sang with so many of the great bands, who was the most sympathetic to the singer? Would you know?
Count Basie. But I sang with Duke, and I sang with Woody Herman and Stan Kenton. I grew up in the band business, and I'll tell you, it was a higher level, and I'm talking about the public now. The audience was so with the music business, and it was an era where the public decided who was going to become famous, not a corporation telling you who you should like. It was completely different today. But now things are looking up, because with the iPod, it's changing where the public is choosing their own songs. They don't have to get hyped into buying something that they find out they didn't like it 2 weeks later. They're choosing what they like, and it's amazing that major change in the record business now.
I have to ask you, Tony, do you have an iPod? Are you
No.
No. I somehow knew you were going to say that, really. The working life of a singer is pretty well known because there are many documentaries about their day, and we see the backstage scene quite a lot, and it's portrayed in a lot of movies. But can you tell me, what does the working day of the artist, Anthony Benedetto, look like?
See, I have two things that I have to do my whole life. This has been going on my whole life. I love to sing and I love to paint. And I have a wonderful son who, the last 30 years, he has now got the reputation as being one of the finest managers in the whole music world. And he freed me, gave me the freedom that I didn't have for 45 years in bucking the trends and all that. And he just said, you just sing and paint and don't worry about business. We'll take care of that. And he's given me my freedom. And he's given me a very contented life where I just sing and paint. And I really, that's all I do. I don't want to know about anything else.
I think it's working out for you pretty good, Tony.
I think it is.
Yeah. I know when I was a younger man, and maybe even around the time of that clip from '83, I think I would have to confess that daytime was not my friend. It was the inconvenient bright time between nightclubs, you know? And as I've toured, as I've got older, I've found that now I have the time to see the cities of the world, to go to the art collections of the world. I wonder whether you ever considered asking Danny to book you a tour so you had days off to go to all the great art collections.
Well,
or do you find the time to do that?
I do that. I go to every museum in the world.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. I mean, you're looking at geniuses. When you go to a museum, you're looking at geniuses like Rembrandt, you know, and it's unbelievable. You look at it, it's right there, right in front of your eyes.
I sometimes wonder whether these two worlds of art and music touch. Has there ever been a reproduction or an art book that you found helped you contemplate when you were preparing for music?
Oh, all of the artists do that to me, you know. You have Goya, who is one of the great social painters and shows the inhumanity of man, and then Van Gogh is just he's really my favorite, you know. I mean, here he never sold a painting, you know, and he sold one painting for $40. And now any painting he has, it starts at $20 million. And hundreds of years later, but then there's Vermeer, and there's so many great painters that through our history, you know, and Leonardo, of course, my being Italian, I have to tell you, the hell with the Sopranos and The Godfather, you know, because Leonardo is the greatest genius that ever lived. He invented the airplane, the submarine, and everything, you know, the anatomy. He's just the greatest genius that ever lived.
That's right.
And he's Italian. That's without guns.
Yeah. I know that troubles you. As I mentioned before, my father is a singer, and still is a better singer than I am. And
I know.
Well, I sang with the orchestra for the first time in 1982 at the Royal Albert Hall, and he called me on the eve of the concert and he said, "Do you know what you're doing?" I said, "No." And he said, "Well, I have one piece of advice for you. Never look up to a note, always look down." And oddly enough, I've always found that whenever I have a little throat problem and I'm confronting a high note in a song, I find that comes into my mind and it does help me.
Good.
Yeah. Do you have any kind of visualization technique that allows you the freedom to sing the way you do?
Yeah, the public.
The public. The occasion of Tony Bennett's 80th birthday met with so many great parties and celebrations, a successful album of duets and a multiple Emmy Award-winning television special. However, one of the most touching tributes came from Harry Belafonte, who recalled that Tony had been among the first artists to join Dr. King on the 3rd Selma to Montgomery Civil Rights March in early 1965, performing at the Stars for Freedom rally alongside Mr. Belafonte, Nina Simone, and Sammy Davis Jr. Can you recall any of the songs that you sang there?
Yeah, Just in Time. Julie Stein's song.
That's a beautiful choice of song, if I may say so, because I'm sure a lot of people were singing songs that really underlined the conflict and the struggle, but that song really does it in such an understated way.
Well, I just sing popular songs. I don't do message songs.
But you would agree that maybe to
it
people
was
hearing
good timing.
it,
It was
that's
good
a beautiful
timing.
choice of song. You spent time with Dr. King. Do you still think of that time and take out of it something in your life?
Yeah, I still think that everybody should have been there in America. Everybody should have showed up for him. Because it's absolute ignorance that that his race is treated so terribly. He re-emphasized our greatest president, Abraham Lincoln. And we should hold on to our forefathers' beliefs and don't allow anybody to change their beliefs, because that's our Constitution.
I know that you say you don't sing message songs, you sing popular songs, but I know that you also don't like to sing songs that contain any sort of message glorifying conflict and war. Do you feel that you among the people that are singing who actually experienced combat in the Second World War, was that a defining moment for you in
Well, I've
realizing
become
that?
a pacifist. I think the war is it's the lowest form of human behavior. I just think that I know it's way ahead of time, but I've always believed the light at the end of the tunnel, and I know that someday everybody's going to wake up and say, "What are we doing?"
Another memorable television show took place on St. Patrick's Day, 1975. The Merv Griffin Show made a salute to Tony Bennett, and the guest list was as follows: Rosemary Clooney, Pearl Bailey, Peggy Lee, Fred Astaire, and a man who wrote a great number of wonderful lyrics, Johnny Mercer.
Johnny Mercer. Oh, he was amazing. He was Americana, you know. He just loved the South, and he was a fantastic artist. You see, those fellas, they never tried to write a hit song. They wrote for the book. In those days, it was economically feasible for them to do 2 or 3 Broadway shows a year. Cole Porter tried it, and so 2 of them would be pretty good, and 1 would be a smash. But out of those shows would come these beautiful songs that were written about the book, not just a hit record that people might like someday and all that. They didn't think that way. You had Richard Rodgers and Oscar Hammerstein, Larry Hart, you know, the beautiful, beautiful composers that wrote from the heart. And these songs are going to live. I'm absolutely positive that 25 or 50 years from now, this will be our classical music that comes from the United States.
No, that's right.
Yeah?
I think that's right. Tony, could we ask you to sing maybe a song with a Johnny Mercer lyric?
Johnny Mercer song?
Yeah.
It's okay. Bill? Here's a song that, once again, it kind of explains the way I feel about things. Johnny Mercer wrote this. I'm old-fashioned. I love the moonlight. I love the old-fashioned things. The sound of rain upon my window pane. The starry song that April sings. This year's fancy are passing fancies, but sighing sighs, holding hands, these my heart understands. I'm old-fashioned, but I don't mind it. That's how I want to be, as long as you'll agree to stay old-fashioned with me. I'm old-fashioned, but I don't mind it. That's how I long to be, as long as you'll agree to stay old-fashioned with me. But is Diana in the audience?
Yeah, she's right.
Where's she at?
Yeah.
Where's Diana? Did I do a song with her?
I don't know, you ask her.
Diana, would you do a song with me? Oh, look how great they look. It's so great. Do a song with me. Do Wonderful World.
I'm enjoying this
World
so
on a
much. I'm like,
String.
are you saying hello to me or is this something else?
Could we do that? Could
No?
let her?
You want?
No, she's gonna play.
I am?
Let her
Okay.
play. World on a String.
No pressure. They're just completely flipping out back there. It's just so great. Oh, okay.
The World on a String.
Just like we rehearsed it.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, I've been a mom of twins. I haven't played the piano in like 6 months. Let me start that again. Okay.
I've got the world on a string. I'm sitting on a rainbow. Got the string around my finger. What a world, what a life. I'm in love. The song that I sing, I can make the rain go anytime I move my finger. Lucky me, can't you see I'm in love? Life's a beautiful thing. As long as you hold that string, I'd be a silly so-and-so if I should ever let go. I've got the world on a string, I'm sitting on a rainbow. Got that string around my finger. What a world, what a life, I'm in love. Go.
Life is a beautiful thing. As long as I've got hold of that string, I'd be a silly so-and-so if I should ever let go. I've got the world on a string, sitting on a rainbow. Got the string around my finger. What a world. You got it.
Life's a beautiful thing. As long as I hold that string, I'd be a silly so-and-so if I should ever let go. I've got the world on a string, I'm sitting on a rainbow. I've got the string around my finger. What a world, what a life. What a world, what a life. I'm in love. Beautiful.
something?
You are one lucky guy. You know that?
Now you know why I love her. I wanted to ask you, because I think that sometimes people talk about a musician who is an artist and assume that it's a hobby. But with you, it really is a dual vocation as singer and artist. And painting involves the accumulation of so many strokes, tones and colors on the canvas until the effect that the artist intends is achieved. Mm-hmm. I wondered whether, because you have sung some of the songs that you sing today over so many years, whether there's something that's shared in that process. Whether you feel in returning to them, there is a picture that you are creating.
Well, you know, Rex Harrison and Julie Andrews, when they did My Fair Lady, it was such a smash hit that they had to sing it maybe 250 times a year. And then that was for about 3 or 4 years. Mm-hmm. And they had to go out and sing the same songs and the same set and the same dialogue all those years. And a lot of people say to me about my signature song, San Francisco, you know, they say, don't you get tired of singing that? And thank God for great jazz artists like your wonderful wife, and Bill Charlap, who's with me tonight, who's just the best piano player since Bill Evans. They have a way of, it's strictly American. They have a way of improvising on a nightly basis, and it feels brand new every night. It's a different turn of phrases and different kind of syncopations and the whole atmosphere in each place, wherever you might play. And it really feels like the first time you're doing the song. And that separates the men from the boys.
Well, that's...
Well, thank you.
I was going to tell the people, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but a couple of years ago, you were kind enough to, your wife Susan and yourself were kind enough to invite us to a family Thanksgiving at a restaurant near our apartment here in New York City, and it was such a lovely thing of you to do. You came around for a glass of champagne before we went to supper, and we had a great evening. And the next day, our building was abuzz. Tony Bennett was in the house. I said, the gentlemen that look after the door, the gentlemen that look after the heating pipes, we had new respect. Neighbors who frequently had suspected us of roasting goats in the living room, strange ritual sacrifices, suddenly wanted to smile at us. And I think that some of there are just so many beautiful things about New York. I've been coming here for 30 years, and now I live here part of the time. And you obviously have found New York very inspiring as a painter. You have some very beautiful paintings, and I hope that we can see a few of them.
I'm so fortunate, you know, that particular painting is in the Smithsonian. They chose that, and it's in there permanently. And I can't believe it. That's with Winslow Holman and Johnson, the sergeant.
I would have asked you if you had a favorite panoramic view of New York,
this painting here, Carol Burnett many years ago said to me, Tony, do a painting of Times Square in the rain, and it took me 15 years to get around to it, but that's the painting I sent to her, and she loved it, you know. It's Times Square. And that's Florence. That's Florence. My wonderful wife Susan and I, we go to Florence and spend a whole month in Florence and at Zubin Mehta's great villa, and that's the view from his porch. And that's Central Park, my favorite place to paint, and that's Sunday in Central Park.
If people are walking by and they happen to see you when you're painting, do they engage you in conversation?
No, I wear a Groucho Marx mask.
I remember thinking, I was in the audience, I actually sang with you on, of course, your MTV Unplugged in 91, which won the Grammy Album of the Year award. But I remember sitting after my part in it and watching you. That's kind of what a lot of people felt about it, Tony. No, we did a number together, and then I went and sat and watched the rest of the performance, and you did this exquisite version of Speak Low. And a friend of mine was sitting next to me, and I said, you know, this audience probably knows Body and Soul, but they may be hearing Speak Low for the first time. And my friend said, no, this audience has never heard Body and Soul. And you have this wonderful responsibility, I suppose it must be, to introduce new generations to these songs.
No, I've never had trouble with, I sing to the whole family. I'm anti-demographics.
That's good. I want to give you that.
I sing to everybody.
It's part of the process of music and perhaps of art that revolutionary figures of one era are known through reduction and even through caricature by subsequent generations. For example, it seems to me absolutely incredible that people today don't fully appreciate the artistry of Bing Crosby. This was a man who pioneered the intimate persuasion of the voice addressing the microphone, and to whom every subsequent singer is indebted, whether they realize it, acknowledge it, or even abuse it.
Yeah, well, he taught everybody, he taught us all how to make a living. And he was a magnificent singer. But he really created the art of intimate singing with the microphone. In fact, a lot of people don't know it, but he was the #1 box office for 7 years in movies. He won 2 Oscars, and he had one great film after another. And he was a natural, and he taught Sinatra, he taught Billie Holiday, he taught us all how to sing in an intimate way. The students of the United States should realize that if they don't go back, they can't go forward. When you study the past, you know, Bing Crosby, Nat King Cole, Sinatra was 10 years my elder. They were masters, and you learn from them, and then you learn what to do because it worked. What they did worked. Whatever they did, and it's good to study what they did so that you find out. We started, my wife and I started a school called the Frank Sinatra School of the Arts. And boy, I'll tell you, it is so great. You know, they have to audition to get into the school. It's a public school. It's in Astoria, where I grew up. And boy, this school is phenomenal. The students are doing such a great job. There are no dropouts. They all graduate, they all go to college or go on to what they really want to do in theater. And all of the arts, we teach them all of the arts, not just music. Or they study dancing, acting. We even teach them filming, how to make films.
And you also have the Exploring the Arts Foundation. Can you explain what that is?
That's right, because the ambition of this one school is to get every public school in the United States eventually to have a program of the arts where every student, every young person gets into the arts and has a taste of the arts, not just academic training.
So inevitably, given their age, they're going to be forward and backward looking. Do you feel there are new songs that you hear?
More back you go. I mean, you know, Picasso and Matisse, they went all the way back to Egypt, the foundation of civilization, and they studied the colors and the paintings that were done in ancient times, the beginning of civilization, and that's how they became so great, by going way back and learning how they did it and then applying it to modern day. The more back you go, the more forward you're going to go.
There are some good new songs. Do you hear songs that maybe don't suit your style of performance? Do you hear songs that you find that is a good composition, that contains a thought? Do you hear songs?
Yeah, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on, but there's too much of there's too many drums today, and everybody's screeching too much. They're not singing. They're all screaming. I mean, what are they screaming about? You know, you don't.
Beats me.
I don't get it. But it's all about the beat today instead of harmony and melody, and it's magnificent when it's like that. Because now you're hearing some intellectual thinking from the musicians that are playing from the heart and intellectually from the brain, and it becomes very, very good music.
Well, Tony, I cannot thank you enough for you've really shared some thoughts about music, and I think it's so important that people, young people and people even my age, get to learn from you, and it's a joy to know you. It's a joy to see you play a song spontaneously with my wife, and it's been
on the way out, if we can, could he play something on the way out? To just
I think we should just stop on the outdoor, play something right now.
Yeah?
What do you say?
Okay, You know, it's funny, talking about the past. You have Gershwin, and Ira Gershwin, his brother, who is a fantastic lyric writer. And he wrote this, I guess, in the late 20s, the very late 20s. And it was during a depression in America. And it's funny how the song pertains, the words pertain to what's happening right now, today, in the United States. I'll show you what I mean. He wrote these lyrics. Let it rain and thunder, let a million firms go under. I am not concerned with stocks and bonds that I've been burned with. I love you and you love me, and that's how it will always be, and nothing else could ever mean a thing. Who cares what the public chatters? Love's the only thing that matters. Who cares if the sun fails to shine from above? Who cares what banks fail in Yonkers? As long as you've got a kiss that conquers. Why should I care? Life is one long jubilee. As long as I care for you, and you really care for me. Go! Bill Charlap. Why should I care? Life is one long jubilee. As long as I care for you, and you really care for me.
Did you give her a warning or no?
No,
No.
great.
That was great.
Yeah, it was such
Tony,
fun.
you were just magnificent.
Oh,
You were magnificent. You spoke from the heart.
It was
you know.
great.
I've got all these big theories, and you know, just straight to the point.